What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Show Me Firearms. My name is Matt, and I'm super excited that you guys could join me out here on the range today. It's been a minute since we've been able to do a shooting video because the range is closed and ammo shortages, all that bad stuff. But as you guys saw in my Independence Day special, the new range is fully operational, it is safe to use, so we can finally get back out here and have some fun. So for today's video, I thought we'd dive into a couple pretty cool guns, kind of compare them, contrast them, see which one may or may not come out on top. First, we're going to be taking a look at the Glock 17 Gen 5 up against the Ruger Security 9. Both of these, of course, chambered in 9mm. I'm just going to kind of give you guys my opinions of both of these pistols and which one I think comes out on top. And of course, this is all my own personal opinion. It's what works for me. It's what I've found in my own experience. It may differ for you guys. So let's, not get all up in arms about Glocks versus other guns. Let's just take this for face value, my own opinion, and have some fun with it. So first, let's take a look at the Glock 17 Gen 5. And just so you guys know, we have a completely clear weapon. There's nothing in that mag well. We're completely clear and safe to handle this firearm. So, of course, you guys either know or can look up all the detailed specs behind both this and the Security 9. So I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the key features that I like, and also some of the cons about each one, and kind of give you guys my opinions of those. So, first of all, the reason why I bought the Glock 17 Gen 5 is because, well, it's a Glock. These things have proven themselves time and again over the years. They are rugged, reliable, durable. They're going to function for you when you need them. That's why I bought the Glock 17 because, like I said, it's probably the most well-tested firearm out there. It's been used by law enforcement, probably some militaries, maybe, from other countries. I don't know for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know it's been used extensively by law enforcement here in the U.S. So that's the main reason why I wanted to get a Glock, is reliability. The other great thing about the Glock platform is that they're so popular, meaning that you can get tons and tons of aftermarket accessories, magazines, anything you want. It's all readily available. There's just tons of Glock stuff everywhere. They're so well supported. So that's another good reason to get into the Glock game, is just because there's so much aftermarket support for them. Kind of moving on to some of the details of the gun itself. I'll just kind of start down here on the grip and kind of work our way up. So just a couple quick things that I really like about the Glock that work well for me. I like the really aggressive texturing on the grip here. You can just really get a good firm grip on it. If you got sweaty hands or whatever, you're going to be able to get a good grip on the Glock 17. I also do like the angle of the grip. I'm not as picky as some other people about the grip angle. All the guns that I've ever fired and owned, I can seem to adapt to them pretty well. But I do like the angle, but it's not, a huge selling point for me, but it is something I like about the Glock 17. Kind of moving up to the slide here, we've got some nice aggressive serrations on both the front of the slide and the rear of the slide. I think the earlier models, or earlier generations, I should say, of the Glock 17 don't have the texturing up front here, just on the rear. But in the Gen 5, it does, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, so we got good, aggressive texturing both front and rear, so you can grip it wherever you need to. That's pretty cool. And then, slide release, pretty standard, but I really like it because when the slide locks to the rear, it's easy to actuate, and we'll see why in just a minute, why I like that feature so much. So just stick with me on that one for the moment. Then we got a nice mag release right here. It's pretty big. You can get a good grip on it, so I like that. Glocks have easy takedown, of course. I'm not going to actually do that on video just for the sake of saving time. You guys know how that works. It's really easy. You don't need any tools. It's pretty simple. Moving on to the sights. I've heard a lot of people really bash the stock Glock sights, and yeah, I mean, I do agree they're not the best, and I will probably be upgrading these iron sights at some point. But hey, these iron sights that come stock on it, they work well. I mean, I can still pick up a clear sight picture. It's accurate, so, you know, really no complaints from me on the sights on the Glock 17. The other cool thing about this particular Glock 17, this is the MOS model. So as you can see, it is cut for a red dot there, and I'm going to be putting a red dot on it at some point. I'm not sure how many the Glock models are in this MOS configuration or whatever, but if you want to put a red dot on it, just make sure you get the MOS model, and it will have that cut out for your red dot on top. Now, the trigger. Yeah, it's a heavy Glock trigger. So it's not light. It is not competition grade at all. It's a heavy Glock trigger. As you can see, we're clear here, so we're safe to dry fire. So we got, you know, a little bit of take up there. We hit the wall. It is a really well-defined wall, which I do like. So we hit that wall, and we'll go ahead and press it to the rear. Pretty heavy. Break. And then the reset. It is a pretty short reset, and there is a nice, clear, crisp click when the trigger resets. So I do like that because it is very easy to know when your trigger is reset. So that's pretty cool. So those are some of the things that I like about the Glock, some things that work pretty well for me. Again, you guys may or may not agree with my assessment, but that's just my personal opinion about the pros of the Glock 17. So Glock's slogan, as you know, is perfection. They think their guns are perfect. Is that the case? No. At least the Glock 17, in my opinion, is not perfection. It is not perfect. There are some things that I'm really not too crazy about with it. First thing, the trigger guard. It's very small. There's plenty of room for your finger to get in there if you don't have a glove on. Come winter time, it does get cold in Missouri, and I want to shoot with gloves on. Well, if I have a gloved finger, I cannot get it through that trigger guard without depressing the trigger ever so slightly to the rear, which I don't want to happen until I am fully ready to shoot. So yeah, Glock, make your trigger guards just a little bit bigger, even just a 1/4 inch. Anything would help. Just make it a little bigger. There's plenty of room up here to make that trigger guard a little bit bigger, just so it's easier to manipulate when you have gloves on. So that's one thing that I find to be a little bit annoying about the Glock platform. The other thing is, and this is just really nitpicking, but I think it's fair to nitpick something that claims to be perfection. Both sides of the grip here, you have this, what I find to be really annoying, indentation. I guess that's where they want you to rest your thumb. I personally don't like it right there. I like to ride my thumb up a little bit higher, kind of like that. So I just find those to be a little bit annoying. It just kind of pokes my fingers. Again, this is not something that is like a deal breaker or a huge deal or anything. I will freely admit that I'm nitpicking at this point, but I'm going to nitpick if they call themselves perfection. So I think that's fair. To be honest, that's about the only things I found that I just really dislike about the Glock. And well, of course, there's that heavy trigger, but it is what it is, and I can adapt to a heavier trigger. And also, the heavier trigger is a good thing. If you're carrying this thing, it just helps with safety and avoiding negligent discharges. So heavy trigger, yeah, it is annoying. If you're going to do competition shooting, yeah, you would want to drop a competition trigger in here, because this trigger is bleh for that purpose. But for just everyday carry or whatever you're doing, it's kind of nice to have a heavier trigger. But that wraps up the cons for the Glock 17 for me personally. You guys may have more cons about it than I do, but that's it for me. All right, let's take a couple shots with the Glock 17. Perfection, if you will. Now, as you may notice, we got a silhouette target downrange, guys. Super pumped about that. I really love this target. Has a nice, satisfying ring. Never thought shooting steel would be so much fun, but it's pretty awesome. All right, let's take a couple shots with this, see how she runs. We know it's going to run, right? It's a Glock. Perfection, right? Okay, so the Ruger Security 9, again, we do have a clear weapon, so we're safe to go ahead and manipulate it. So, kind of starting with the grip here. Again, grip angles really, I haven't found to be a big issue for me, so I'm fine with the way it is on Security 9. I did go ahead and add this Hogue rubberized grip sleeve on here, just because I found the grip on the Security 9 to be a little bit thin for my hands, so I went ahead and threw that on, gave me a little extra real estate on there to grab onto. So that's just a little minor upgrade I did, and I really like this grip sleeve on here. It works pretty well. Other things I like about the Security 9. We got a nice big trigger guard there. If you have a glove on in the winter, you can easily fit that through there without even touching that trigger. So, Ruger, you got it right where Glock, honestly, in my opinion, got it wrong. A little bit bigger trigger guard. Good on you guys. So I really like that. The Security 9, while it doesn't have the reputation for reliability like the Glock does, I've found it to be pretty reliable. Granted, I've just been, it's just been basically a range toy for me. It's never seen combat or law enforcement use or anything like that. But from what I've seen of it out on the range, it does quite well, and I have no complaints about its reliability or durability. The other thing about the Security 9 that I like, well, let me rephrase it. The other thing I kind of half like is the trigger. It has a very light trigger because this is hammer fired. The Glock is, of course, striker fired. So let's go ahead and show you guys that trigger here. So a little bit of take up, then you hit the wall right there. Then you got to apply a little bit of pressure, brake, and reset. So it is a much lighter trigger than the Glock, which I do like. But again, I only half like the trigger. We'll get into the rest of it here in a moment. So those are some good things about the Security 9 that I really like. Now, I do have a few cons about this gun. Where to start? So first of all, slide release. I hate it. Slide lock to the rear. It's so flush up against the frame that I can't get a good grip on it. You really gotta think about it, where you're putting your thumb, and there it is. So when you're trying to do a fast reload, your thumb is just gonna slide right off of it. So the slide release, I hate it. That's why I was mentioning the slide release on the Glock, because I went from not being able to use the slide release at all to being able to use a slide release. So Ruger, come on, you got to give us a little more real estate, a little more texturing on that slide release so it's easier to actuate. Another thing, the mag release, it's just a little small button right here. It's much harder to get a grip on with your thumb. There is zero texturing on it. It's just smooth, and it's just a tiny little button. The Glock is nice and big, plenty of real estate, some good texturing on there. So yeah, that's kind of a fail for the Security 9. Moving up to the slide here. Yes, the Security 9 does have serrations, texturing, whatever you want to call it, in both front and rear, but it is not nearly as aggressive as the Glock. So it is a little harder to get a grip on it because the serrations aren't as good, and also the slide is not quite as tall as the Glock, so there's just not as much real estate to be able to grab onto. I mean, you can still easily grab it and manipulate your slide, but it is harder. So that's one thing that the Glock does come out on top on. Sight picture on Security 9. Ruger, you guys are basically copying Glock. These are basically Glock sights. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but you just got, your little white outline here, dot right there. I mean, those are just basically Glock sights, with one little exception. The rear sight, as you can see, is angled, whereas the Glock is more straight up and down. I'm not a fan of that, and I'm not quite sure why, because it's just, even though these are basically Glock sights, it's still kind of hard for me to get a good sight picture. And my theory of why at least I have trouble with that is, since this sight is at an angle and you got, that little white line in there, whatever you want to call that, my theory is that it kind of reflects some light back at me, and it just makes it more fuzzy for me and harder to get a good sight picture on. So not too crazy about the sights on the Security 9. Moving on to the half of the trigger that I don't like. Like I said, I do like it that it is light. I really like that, but the reset, it's terrible. So it's really long, and unlike the Glock, there is no like really clear, satisfying click. It's hard to hear, it's hard to feel. So I'll go ahead and show you that reset here. So look, that is such a long reset. The Glock would have resetted by now. There it is. I can barely hear that. I barely feel anything in my finger when that trigger resets. So yes, it is light, but the reset is terrible. So that's why I only half like the trigger on Security 9. Another con about the Security 9 is the takedown. So unlike the Glock, where you have to dry fire it before you can take the slide off, you don't have to in Security 9. But what you have to do is you got to pull back slightly on your slide there, and then there's this little kind of pin right here that goes straight through the frame there, and you got to pull that out. I think some guys on their Security 9s are able just to pull it out by hand. For some reason, on this particular Security 9, I can't speak for every Security 9, but on my specific Security 9, I gotta get a little, a key or a flathead screwdriver or something to kind of pop it out. So that's a little bit annoying. And then also you have a pin lying around which could get lost. Unlike the Glock, where there's no tools, no pins, no nothing, it's all pretty self-contained. It is possible to lose your takedown pin. So that is one con about the Security 9. All right, let's shoot the Ruger Security 9. See how she runs. See if it can stack up against perfection. While it may not be perfection, it's still a pretty dang good firearm. So in our epic matchup between the Glock 17 Gen 5 versus the Ruger Security 9, who's the winner? Who comes out on top? Well, in my opinion, this may or may not reflect the opinions that you guys hold. It may or may not reflect your own personal preferences. It's my own opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But for me, the Glock is a clear winner. Why? Well, basically the Security 9 is a cheap Glock clone. Why? Because, well, starting with the trigger here, it's got a little blade safety thing on there, whatever you call it. That's a Glock thing. Ruger got that from Glock. So, just go straight to the source and get a Glock if you want that. The other thing is takedown, with the exception of that little pin right there. This thing comes apart exactly the same as the Glock. So again, Ruger got that from Glock. Sight picture, with the exception of the rear sight being angled slightly there, it's a Glock sight picture. Ruger, you're copying the Glock again. Just so I would just get a Glock for if you like the sight picture. Let's see, what else? I feel like with the Security 9, Ruger, they were trying to make it wear too many hats. Because this is almost a full-size pistol if we compare it to the Glock here. As far as like length goes, the Security 9 is only slightly shorter, maybe, I don't know, half an inch. They're both about the same thickness. The grips are about the same length. I mean, as far as the size of each gun, they're basically the same. So I say that the Security 9 is trying to wear too many hats because, like I said, it's trying to compete with a full-size Glock, but at the same time, Ruger tried to leave the door open for concealed carry on this. Because, if you notice, there are no sharp corners anywhere on this firearm. Every corner is beveled, like on the slide here, that's beveled. That's why the rear side is angled like that, just so there's not a sharp corner. Things that might get snagged on your holster or clothing or whatever, if you're drawing from concealment. So, I just feel like the Ruger Security 9, they tried to make it a catch-all. And for me personally, I don't want a gun that tries to do everything, but doesn't do it very well. I'd rather have a gun that does one thing very well. And one thing that the Glock 17 does very well is for, like, if you're going to open carry, so, you know, the footprint, you know, whatever you want to call it, the footprint, yeah. It really doesn't matter because, you know, it's not being concealed anyway. So the Security 9, yeah, they were just trying to make this gun fit too many purposes, and I'm not crazy about that. I think it should be more purpose built, you know, for one specific purpose. So, again, for me, the Glock 17 Gen 5 comes out on top over the Ruger Security 9. Now, none of this is to say that the Security 9 is a bad gun, because I still really like it. It's a great range toy. You know, it's accurate, it handles really well, so, you know, I really have no complaints about it because it's been a good little gun for me. I just feel like, you know, for me personally, it just really doesn't have a need anymore. Because when I first bought this about 2 years ago, I was on an extremely tight budget, so I couldn't afford a Glock at the time, but I still really wanted to get a good 9mm pistol, so I went with this. So if you're on a super tight budget, yes, this is a great option, and I would highly recommend the Security 9 if you're on that tight budget. But if you can spend a little bit more, I would go with a Glock, just because Ruger, they were trying to copy the Glock. So it's, for me, for my opinion, it's best just to go straight to the source, get a Glock, unless you're on a super tight budget. And then, which if you are, go for it. Get the Security 9, you will not regret it. In the interest of full disclosure though, I'm probably not going to be keeping the Security 9 around much longer, because like I said, for me, it really doesn't have a function anymore. The function of this gun was to get me in to handguns. This was the first handgun I ever bought. So for me, it got me started in the handgun world, and it got me a great start. But now I've kind of moved away from this platform because the 17, if you know, I was gonna open carry, which probably won't, probably not a good idea. But if you wanted to, that's the perfect option. It's the perfect service pistol to use as a backup, say, to a rifle. For concealed carry though, that's what I'm going to get rid of this gun for, in favor of a subcompact that is better for concealed carry, easier to conceal, all that good stuff. So, yes, the Security 9 is a great gun. For me personally though, it just doesn't really have much of a function anymore. But still, a great gun, and if you bought one, you would not regret it. Well, there you have it, guys. That is my analysis, my opinions of the Glock 17 Gen 5 versus the Ruger Security 9. Again, I think the Glock's better. You guys may or may not agree or disagree with that. If you agree, let me know in the comments down below. If you disagree, let me know that too in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching Show Me Firearms, guys. Appreciate you being here. And until next time, show me them firearms. Can't shoot left-handed. What a way to send off a monster mower, am I right? So much freedom!